Didn't say nothing, didn't yell nothing. Just pop, 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 pop. Everybody got down in the truck, so that shit stopped. You know, we all hopped out. Everybody door open but Big door. Go see him, or and his family was very protective of him at that time, his people. So I don't know how he could have even got the opportunity to see him.
She messed with my best friend and broke my heart. And I was splitting the money with him, from cleaning, bathrooms in New York during the heat wave. Do not think that you're the only one that's having a hard time, okay? I'm having a hard time at my level. There's always different levels to it.
In hip-hop, where legends are made and legacies are often intertwined with secrecy and controversy, one name has remained in the shadows for far too long: Lil Cease. Lil Cease, known for his connection to the late, great Biggie Smalls, is here to reveal what he believes truly happened seconds before Biggie's tragic demise. According to Lil Cease, there was no drive-by shooting, the car was stationary at the corner. The stories that have become entrenched in hip-hop lore may not be as truthful as they seem. The question now is, what really happened that fateful night? In this video, we'll delve into Lil Cease's account of events, his perspective on the industry's machinations, and his mission to uncover the truth. So, with the stage set and the secrets waiting to be unveiled, let's begin. The deadly beef between Tupac and Biggie, two legendary rappers, is a tale of friendship turned into hostility, fueled by circumstances beyond their control. This notorious feud, known as the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry, was extensively covered by Vibe magazine and infuriated many other artists in the hip-hop community. Biggie and Tupac's friendship began in 1993 when they first crossed paths. Biggie, a rising star from Brooklyn, encountered Tupac, a famous rapper in Los Angeles. Tupac, a dealer in California, extended an invitation to Biggie, which eventually blossomed into a genuine friendship.
We all chilling.
Right.
We on the West Coast. Tupac brought Biggie with him. We rocking. We let Cuz get down with us. We go in the back, smoke, chill, hang out. It's beautiful.
Tupac's influence on Biggie was undeniable. He imparted valuable knowledge about the rap industry to the aspiring artist, encouraging Biggie to tailor his music to appeal to a female audience. Tupac firmly believed that catering to women would be the key to commercial success. Their bond was so strong that Biggie even asked Tupac to manage his career and help him reach stardom quickly. However, Tupac declined this offer, advising Biggie to stay with Bad Boy Records, owned by his manager, Sean "Puffy" Combs, as it would lead him to fame. One of the key figures in Tupac's life during this period was Haitian Jack, a man he met at a Manhattan nightclub. Tupac was drawn to Jack's lavish lifestyle, which played a significant role in shaping Tupac's image. He introduced Tupac to influential gangsters in Brooklyn, further immersing him in street culture. An unfortunate incident that changed Tupac's life occurred on November 18th, 1993. Tupac met Ayanna Jackson, with whom he spent the night. A few nights later, when Tupac was back in New York, Haitian Jack arranged for Tupac to meet Jackson again. What followed was a harrowing experience for Jackson, who claimed she was assaulted in Tupac's presence.
People don't like when they tell the truth. I tell people, you don't really know Pac, because Pac don't even know Pac. He got the right name. There's definitely two Pacs there. It's not one, it's two of them.
This incident led to a series of legal troubles for Tupac. Tensions escalated between Tupac and Biggie when a robbery took place in New York. Tupac believed it was a setup orchestrated by his supposed friends in the city. This further fueled his distrust, especially toward Biggie, Puffy, Haitian Jack, and Jimmy Henchman. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry took center stage, becoming a major talking point in the hip-hop community. The infamous Source Awards in 1995 intensified the feud when Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records, openly challenged artists from the East Coast. This incident escalated the tension and solidified Tupac's loyalty to Death Row Records. In a tragic turn of events, Tupac was shot multiple times on the night of November 30th, 1994, at a recording studio in New York. This incident led to suspicions about Biggie's involvement, although he vehemently denied any wrongdoing. Tupac survived, but was sentenced to prison for a separate case. During his time in prison, Tupac sent a letter to Madonna, with whom he had a brief affair, apologizing for his behavior and asking for information about his adversaries. Tupac's life was filled with controversy and adversities, even behind bars. Years later, one of Tupac's alleged robbers, Dexter Isaac, confessed to being the mastermind behind the robbery. robbery. He claimed that Tupac's close friend, Big Stretch, was involved in orchestrating the attack. This revelation added another layer of complexity to the story. Tensions persisted, leading to Tupac's release from prison and his signing with Death Row Records. During this period, Tupac released the scathing diss track, Hit 'Em Up, targeting Biggie and other East Coast rappers. The lyrics contained inflammatory statements, including allegations of Biggie sleeping with Tupac's wife. This further fueled the feud. Biggie was deeply affected by Tupac's death, calling Faith Evans in tears upon hearing the news. The loss of his friend was a shock, even though their friendship had been strained. Biggie's trip to Los Angeles aimed to put the feud behind them, as he didn't want Tupac to be dead. The story surrounding the deaths of two iconic figures in hip-hop history, Tupac Shakur and the notorious Big, is marked by tragedy, controversy, and enduring mystery. The fateful night of March 9th, 1997, saw the untimely death of Biggie Smalls in a drive-by shooting in Los Angeles. This incident left a void in the rap industry and in the hearts of fans that can never be filled. Lil Cease, a close friend and fellow rapper, witnessed this tragic event and became a key figure in shedding light on the circumstances surrounding Biggie's death. Cease's account of that night paints a disturbing picture, indicating that Diddy's car, which was in front of Biggie's, ran a red light while Biggie's driver was instructed to stop. This decision allowed the assailants the opportunity they needed to shoot at Biggie's vehicle. Moreover, Gene Deal, a former member of Puff Daddy's security crew in the 90s, echoed Cease's account, claiming that the events leading to Biggie's death were inaccurately portrayed in movies and documentaries. According to Deal, the shooting was not a drive-by. Instead, the assailant was lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike.
It just hurt because they lie too much, man. A lot of that shit be lies the way they put it together, because they listening to these white boys who wasn't even there. How the hell and I don't want to make this racial, but they take these white boys who wasn't even there and want to use the story that they want to tell.
The East Coast-West Coast feud in the hip-hop industry played a significant role in these tragic events. The rivalry emerged in the early 1990s as West Coast hip-hop artists such as NWA and Dr. Dre challenged the dominance of their East Coast counterparts. The tension escalated when Suge Knight, CEO of Death Row Records, made a provocative statement at the 1995 Source Awards, suggesting that artists should come to Death Row for creative freedom. This further intensified the rivalry. The feud's focal point became the personal animosities between Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. Tupac believed that Biggie and Diddy had prior knowledge of a 1994 shooting in which Tupac was wounded. Despite Biggie's denials, Tupac's anger and paranoia escalated, culminating in his signing with Death Row Records. The feud had created an atmosphere of tension and mistrust within the industry despite calls for peace. Despite the persistent rumors of Diddy's involvement in both Tupac and Biggie's deaths, nothing has been proven, and he remains innocent until proven guilty. The deaths of these two iconic artists serve as a stark reminder of the destructive power of violence and the need for unity and collaboration within the hip-hop community. Well, Tupac's tensions with East Coast rappers weren't limited to just Biggie. At the time, Jay-Z was an up-and-coming artist who hadn't yet released his debut album. Things took a turn when Jay collaborated with Biggie on the track Brooklyn's Finest. This collaboration was perceived by many as Jay-Z picking sides in the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. Notably, Biggie took a shot at Tupac in the song, fueling the feud further. Around the time Brooklyn's Finest dropped, rumors swirled that Tupac had an affair with Biggie's wife, Faith Evans. Biggie referenced this rumor in the song, playfully suggesting that if Faith had twins, she might have two packs.
He called me and he's like, I did it. And I'm like, what? What you did? He's like, that just left my hotel. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, Faith. I can say this, that man ain't never lied to me one day in his life. I've never caught him in a lie. Good, bad, or indifferent. He always kept it real with me, so I don't see why he would lie.
In response to these provocations, Tupac unleashed a barrage of disses aimed at both Biggie and Jay-Z. Tragically, Tupac was killed shortly after Brooklyn's Finest was released, and his disses against Jay-Z came to light after his death. According to producer Irv Gotti, Jay-Z did record a response but chose not to release it out of respect for Tupac, who had passed away. When Dr. Dre and Suge Knight teamed up to create Death Row Records, they ushered in a new era in West Coast rap. The Chronic became a massive hit, and Snoop Dogg's debut album catapulted him to stardom. The label was raking in over $300 million annually at its peak. However, Dr. Dre eventually decided to part ways with Death Row, citing differences in their working styles. Although major conflicts didn't mar Dre's departure, Tupac didn't hold back in calling him out after he left. He, along with Suge Knight, spread rumors about Dre's sexuality. Tupac released a diss track called Toss It Up, where he aimed Dre, saying that Dre was blown and forgotten. The track suggested that Dre had made a poor choice by leaving Death Row. This diss track, however, only emerged 2 weeks after Tupac's tragic death. Preventing any response from Dr. Dre's exit marked the beginning of the end for Death Row Records. Following Tupac's death, Snoop Dogg was the label's sole remaining star. The label's decline accelerated when Snoop also feuded with Suge Knight over Tupac's death and eventually parted ways. Today, Snoop Dogg owns Death Row and even announced a cannabis brand called Death Row Cannabis. While Tupac had a well-publicized feud with Biggie, not many people know his disputes with other artists. During their rise in the rap scene, Tupac and Nas had a cordial relationship. However, things took a turn when Tupac joined forces with Death Row Records after his release from prison. Nas released a track called The Message, in which he rapped, "Fake thug, no love, you get the slug." Tupac interpreted this as a diss and began taking shots at Nas during his live shows and on the Machiavelli album. The tension escalated, and at the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards, Nas' younger brother Jungle nearly faced a confrontation with Death Row associates. Fortunately, it didn't escalate into violence, but it was a tense moment. Pac and Nas crossed paths after the awards show, and they were on the brink of a potential clash, but instead they chose to talk it out. Pac intended to remove the disses aimed at Nas from his Machiavelli album, but tragically couldn't do so before his untimely death. It's crucial to note that despite these conflicts, there wasn't any genuine animosity between Tupac and Nas. Another individual Tupac had beef with wasn't even a fellow rapper. It was C. Dolores Tucker, a civil rights activist who strongly opposed gangster rap. She convinced music stores to stop selling rap records and vocally criticized the genre. Tupac retaliated with lyrics in his song How Do You Want It, where he attacked Tucker, stating, "C. Dolores Tucker, use A." Even after Tupac's death, Tucker tried to sue his estate, claiming his lyrics had caused her emotional distress and invaded her privacy, but the case was eventually dismissed. This controversy only increased her public profile, and many other rappers followed Tupac's lead by mocking her in their music. Tupac had a unique way of addressing controversies and his rivals in the industry. He was not one to back down from a fight and made a name for himself by taking on powerful figures, even the then vice president, Dan Quayle. A Texas state trooper's murder involving an individual who was listening to a bootleg of Tupac's album, Tupacalypse Now, led Quayle to publicly condemn the music, stating, "There is absolutely no reason for a record like this to be published." Tupac, unyielding in the face of criticism, responded with lyrics in the track Peep Game, addressing Vice President Quayle directly. Vice President Dan Quayle, eat a D up. The confrontation demonstrated Tupac's fearlessness in tackling powerful figures in politics. On a fateful night in 1994, Tupac was shot 5 times in a recording studio at Quad Studios in New York. This event changed the landscape of rap music. Before the incident, Tupac had been on good terms with many East Coast artists, including Biggie Smalls. However, this attack marked a turning point in the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. Following the shooting, Tupac's relationship with several East Coast rappers soured. His once friendly ties with the East Coast deteriorated significantly, escalating tensions within the hip-hop community. The tragic event cast a long shadow over the rap world and contributed to the heightened rivalries that would follow. Tupac and Biggie, as they were affectionately known, were initially close friends. Their paths converged when a local drug dealer in Los Angeles set up a meeting between them. A camaraderie quickly developed, with Tupac even inviting Biggie on stage during his performances in New York. The two artists collaborated on several tracks, and Pac was even keen to have Biggie join his Thug Life crew, a testament to their genuine friendship. However, the turning point occurred when Tupac was ambushed, robbed, and shot at Quad Studios in New York. Although Pac survived the attack, he became increasingly convinced that Biggie and Sean Diddy Combs had some involvement in the incident. This was the moment when their relationship began to unravel. Tensions escalated when Biggie released Who Shot Ya, a song that was met with mixed interpretations, but was perceived by Tupac as a provocation. This situation was exacerbated by the chaos that unfolded during the 1995 Source Awards when Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight publicly confronted Puff Daddy and the East Coast. This event marked the official declaration of war in the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. Matters worsened when Suge Knight's associate, Big Jake, was reportedly murdered by one of Puff Daddy's bodyguards, further fueling the feud. In response, Tupac released Hit 'Em Up, a scathing diss track aimed at Biggie, Diddy, and anyone who was perceived to be disloyal. The lyrics were brutal, leaving no room for interpretation as Pac unleashed his anger. Biggie's camp, however, decided against responding with diss tracks of their own. According to Lil Cease, a member of Biggie's Junior Mafia crew, Biggie still harbored a level of respect and affection for Tupac, which prevented him from further inflaming the situation. The two artists were tragically never able to reconcile, as Tupac's life was cut short just 2 weeks after Hit 'Em Up was released. The circumstances surrounding Tupac's murder remain shrouded in mystery. Several conspiracy theories suggest that Diddy and Suge Knight were somehow involved. Retired LAPD cop Greg Kading even investigated the case, alleging that Diddy paid a Crip named Keffy D $1 million to orchestrate Tupac's assassination. This theory speculates that Puff Daddy was fearful of retaliation for his bodyguard's involvement in Big Jake's death. Suge Knight's connection to Tupac's murder remains a point of contention, adding to the enigma surrounding these events. The Tupac-Biggie feud had an indelible impact on the world of hip-hop, significantly altering its course. It prompted a shift from artistry to hostility and laid the groundwork for a slew of other rap beefs that followed. The tragic loss of both Tupac and Biggie serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences that can result from unresolved conflicts in the world of music. While hip-hop fans have mostly focused on the Tupac-Biggie feud, it's important to remember that Tupac wasn't one to back down from any dispute, regardless of the artist's stature. Even LL Cool J, a revered figure in the genre, became the target of Tupac's ire. This clash emerged from the track I Shot Ya, on which Ice Cube, Prodigy, Keith Murray, Foxy Brown, and Fat Joe collaborated with LL Cool J. Tupac, who had become increasingly paranoid after the Quad Studios incident and the escalating East Coast-West Coast rivalry, misinterpreted the song as a diss towards him. This perception ignited a potentially volatile situation. The tensions culminated when Keith Murray and Tupac's entourage encountered each other at the House of Blues. It's a testimony to Keith Murray's composure that a physical altercation was averted despite the presence of knives on both sides. Amid the chaos, LL Cool J's status as a rap icon was unimpaired, and his character remained largely devoid of beef. Fortunately, this misunderstanding was diffused and never escalated into a full-fledged feud. Tupac's readiness to engage in conflicts extended beyond hip-hop circles. Even Michael Jackson, the king of pop himself, was the subject of Tupac's ire. In a twist of fate, Tupac had an opportunity to collaborate with Michael Jackson, a prospect that excited him tremendously. However, things didn't unfold as planned. Michael Jackson didn't show up at the studio for their joint recording session, which Tupac interpreted as a sign of disrespect. He left the studio without recording a verse. These incidents, entangled with rumors of Tupac's alleged confrontation with Michael Jackson at a party, have generated intriguing tales. The true nature of Tupac and Michael Jackson's relationship remains enigmatic, but it serves as a testament to Tupac's audacity and willingness to confront anyone, regardless of their status. While some of these tales might sound like sensational rumors, they underscore the complex and unpredictable life of Tupac Shakur, an artist whose career was marked by immense talent, fearless confrontation, and ultimately tragic loss. The stories of his feuds and misunderstandings paint a vivid picture of a life lived on the edge of both fame and infamy. Diddy recently made headlines due to a flurry of troubling allegations, stirring up rumors and speculations. Amid all this, one significant move caught everyone's attention. He made a surprising announcement that he would ensure his artists receive fair compensation. This unexpected change of heart raised eyebrows, as some suspected hidden motives behind it. It's been suggested that Diddy's decision to return publishing rights to his artists might not be as straightforward as it appears. Some are concerned that he might be trying to silence them by having them sign non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. In the 1990s, Diddy's Bad Boy Records label was on top of the music industry. It boasted iconic artists like the late and legendary Notorious B.i.g, Mary J. Blige, Lil Kim, Faith Evans, Craig Mack, and Mace. Mace, in particular, stood out as a shining star, but he shocked the world when he decided to leave the label to become a pastor in 1999. This raised questions about the circumstances of his departure. Mace made a successful comeback after 5 years with his album Welcome Back under the Bad Boy label, but he later expressed his desire to leave again, which he cleverly addressed during an interview with Diddy. Despite moments of apparent reconciliation, the tension between them never truly seemed to dissipate, with Mace continuing to criticize Diddy. In 2016, Mace made a dramatic return during a Bad Boy Records tour and publicly criticized Diddy. He revealed that he had never received proper compensation, despite being the creative force behind many of Bad Boy's hit songs, shedding light on his financial struggles within the label. One of the most significant allegations against Diddy came from a former bodyguard, Gene Deal, who claimed that Diddy had been profiting from Notorious B.I.G's success. He further alleged that Biggie had been actively considering leaving Bad Boy Records in the weeks leading up to his murder in 1997. Deal asserted that Biggie had negotiated a substantial deal worth over $60 million with another label. Biggie's mother, Valletta Wallace, supported these claims, stating that her son was part of a high-stakes game where he didn't fully understand the rules. She revealed that the people he thought he could trust were willing to exploit her and her family for financial gain. Deal also asserted that Diddy had expressed indifference toward the well-being of Tupac and Biggie even months before their tragic deaths. He claimed that Diddy cared more about his business interests than the lives of these two iconic rappers. According to Deal, law enforcement had surveillance photographs of a person who matched the description of Biggie's shooter, but did not accurately represent the actual perpetrator. These allegations and revelations have raised many questions about Diddy's business practices and his relationships with his artists, particularly those from the heydays of Bad Boy Records. The music industry remains a complex and sometimes troubled world, where fame and fortune often come at a high cost. In conclusion, the revelations made by Lil Cease, Mace, and other insiders shed light on the complex and often contentious relationships within the music industry, particularly concerning Diddy and Bad Boy Records. These allegations of silencing, financial disputes, and hidden agendas have sparked a broader conversation about the treatment of artists and their rights. The legacy of artists like Notorious B.I.G, Mace, and others is not just in their music, but also in the stories surrounding their careers. These stories serve as a reminder that the music industry, with all its glamour and success, can also be a place of challenges and hidden truths. With that, we conclude our discussion on the revelations brought to light by Lil Cease regarding his experiences with Diddy and the broader challenges within the music industry. We value your perspective and welcome your thoughts and opinions on this matter. Thank you for engaging with us and being part of this video.